In his office is the wall dedicated to Theodore Roosevelt, yes, the former president of the United States, but also a former police commissioner of New York City from back in 1895. Bratton made clear to us he doesn't believe his rival, former police commissioner Ray Kelly, will run for mayor of New York City, but Bratton adds, don't ever expect to call him Mayor Bratton, though he considered it in the past. Commissioner, between me and you, just between us.
Between you and me and your listenership.
Is it fair to say that you and Ray Kelly don't like each other? What is going on with this thing here?
No, it's not so much not a matter of not liking each other. We have very different personalities. We have very different management styles, and we obviously have different ways of prioritizing the focus and the direction of the New York City Police Department. Nothing wrong with that, that you have different mayors that have different styles, you have police commissioners that have different styles. That's the reality of it.
A lot of talk about him running for mayor.
I don't think that's going to happen, but you'll have to ask him that in terms of the, to run for mayor of New York City is an extraordinarily challenging event. And again, he has indicated that he does not have any interest in that, but you'd have to speak to him to determine if that's of future interest to him. I know it's of no interest to me.
Well, you already know what my follow-up question is, Commissioner. What is your future in terms of popular police commissioner, served the city a number of times? There are some that speculate that you could have a further career in politics should you decide to do so.
Politics are of no interest to me. I looked at it back in the 90s at one time, and fortunately I proved my sanity by not going to run for the position of mayor. Now, politics are of no interest to me in any capacity, mayor or in any other way. I like what I do as commissioner, having a good time as commissioner. We're having a lot of success this time, as we did back in '94. So, no, I'm very content to stay doing what I'm doing.
There was a report a few months back that when you had said that you would not commit to serving 2 full terms, how long do you see yourself staying on as police commissioner of New York City?
Well, actually, that would be up to Mayor de Blasio because I serve at his pleasure. And I have no interest in leaving any time in the near future. I enjoy what I do. And as we've seen by these last 2 years, we're having some pretty good success at keeping the city safe, making it safer. And that's very satisfying to me. And I enjoy also being in a position to help influence a lot of the national debate that's been engaged in over these last couple of years around issues of police use of force, police professionalism, police effectiveness. So I'm where I want to be and would like to stay here for quite some time.
Let's talk about the homeless, Commissioner, something that's is a major issue in the city of New York. You said regarding the de Blasio administration that the mayor made a mistake by denying the homeless epidemic that was so obvious to New Yorkers. Elaborate, please.
The homeless situation in New York City is actually 2 situations, and unfortunately we confuse the 2. And we have the truly homeless, the homeless families, the 55, 60,000 people that so often the administration will talk about, the media will reference those numbers. But what is the visible population? That population is almost totally invisible. You or I don't see those people. They are in shelters, they are in apartments, they are in hotels. It's an awful, tragic situation for them. But they are largely invisible to the general public, that you just don't, you may be aware of them, their kid may be in school next to your kid, you may know a person that's in a homeless situation. But the homeless population that raises the concern about not being controlled and growing is what we see in the streets. And that's 3,000 to 4,000 individuals, very much in the newspapers the last couple of days with the cold alert. And that's the population that we were conflating the 2, we were confusing the 2. There's 2 homeless populations. The street population is service resistant. These are people who are street people under almost no circumstances, including freezing weather. Can you get them into homeless shelters? Can you get them into service environments? They refuse because of their emotional condition. Many of them are seriously involved in the sense of mental issues. We have a significant number of them have very significant drug problems, alcohol problems. So that's the population that I talk about when I talk about the homeless that are of concern to the police department.
Is Governor Cuomo's brand new executive order, is that a good thing for the police department?
Well, I think the order is a well-intentioned effort on the part of the governor to attract attention to the issue throughout the state. That there's no denying that New York City has the largest homeless population and set of issues around that population. But the governor's executive order really does not mandate us to do anything differently than we've been doing. For example, these last couple of nights we've had what we call a code blue situation. Temperature goes below 32. We put out a finest message, which is our internal message to all of our troops, read it roll call, which advises them if they encounter these service-resistant street people to try to encourage them into shelter. When they find them, to call for a homeless outreach officer, an officer specially trained to deal with them. That officer will also bring in a supervisor and will bring in homeless service people from city agencies, all of them trying to work to cajole these people off the streets into shelter. The other evening, the first evening that we put Code Blue into effect, I think we put about 90 people that we were able to voluntarily get into shelter. I think there was one involuntary commitment.
Are the police handcuffed, Commissioner Bratton, by the current law in terms of the job you could do dealing with the homeless?
It's not so much handcuffed, it's limited. And we are controlled by law. And a lot of the laws in this country and in this state put significant limitations on what the police can do about things that create this concern on the part of the public or the perception that the streets somehow or other are getting worse, the quality of life is getting worse. First off, you have the First Amendment. First Amendment guarantees the right of an individual to beg and guarantees the right of an individual to sit on a public sidewalk and beg. We might not like it. We may see that as a deterioration of quality of life, but that's the law. I can't break the law to enforce a law for which there is a law preventing us taking action. Similarly, that there's been various court interpretations of various laws that also put limitations on what my officers can do to deal with some of these so-called service-resistant street conditions that is so prominent in the city at this particular time. We had an issue recently, as you're well aware, over a number of years where it was inferred and found by a federal court that the New York City Police Department, in its stop, question, and frisk practices, was in fact going against the law. And we've seen the outcome and the result of that situation. I'm not going to put the members of the New York City Police Department, the cops in the street, into a situation in which we cannot justify their actions. We are here to enforce the law, not to break it.
When you released the crime stats the other day, one of the things that's basically gotten lost in the translation, you said that the NYPD, that your officers fired their weapons, I believe, in just 65 cases last year, a record low?
Let me correct that. On a radio interview, 2 radio interviews yesterday, I used the figure 65. It's actually 67. At 67 incidents in which our officers fired their weapons. About 32 of those were dealing with assailants. 18 of them were for dog shootings. We'll be putting out the specifics of that preliminary report. There'll be a much more comprehensive report later in the year, but these are preliminary figures. The good news about that is that's the lowest number of use of firearms in the history of the department. Back in the 1970s, the figures were in the hundreds. Each year it's gone down. This is probably one of the most restrained police departments in America, arguably probably the most restrained major city police department in America in our use of firearms.
Commissioner, last time we spoke to you, you said morale was tough for the men and women of the NYPD out there on a daily basis. In terms of the interactions with the public, how would you describe what it's like for a police officer now?
I think the morale situation is improving. Morale, there's 2 types of morale. There's organizational and there's individual. Individual being a cop likes his assignment, likes where he works, likes the people he works with. So what's going on organizationally is not of significant impact. Comes to work, does his assignments, likes the people he works with, goes home at the end of the day feeling pretty good. Organizational, it's the professional issue, the idea that if the department's being beat up in the press on this issue, if policing is being beat up nationally on issues of race, use of force, truthfulness, that would have impact on morale. We spend a lot of our time, my time as police commissioner, my management team, trying to improve the conditions for our employees. And I would argue in the last 2 years, we have done more to meet the needs of the members of this department than has been done at any other time in the history of the department. We're in the process of, for the first time in the history of the NYPD comprehensively cleaning up every one of our police facilities. Top to bottom cleaning with professional cleaning companies, painting, getting rid of thousands upon thousands of boxes of files and clutter. We hope to, within the next 3 to 5 years, to replace every bathroom and locker room in our police facilities for the first time ever in the history. We're modernizing our vehicle fleet. I just had a presentation yesterday of all the things we're doing relative to officer safety, better equipment, better training. We've put a new career development enhancement program in place to level the playing field for people that want to move up in the department or have career enhancement. I'm very comfortable that we're doing everything that we can to meet the needs of our members within the limits of budget, within the limits of resources. And to that end, Mayor de Blasio, with the exception of our PBA, Police Officers Union, all our other unions have settled their contracts that have not been settled in some instances for 6, 8 years. So that at least on the benefit and salary aspect of morale, that has been met within the last year.
I close this way, Commissioner. A question I asked you before. What's the worst part of your job?
Worst part of the job, I guess, is the clear understanding of what it is we're trying to do and what, in fact, we do. I referenced earlier those two editorials, New York Post, Daily News. Sky is falling, oh, isn't this awful? Hey, the sun's out, what a great day. Trying to clarify the message. The good news is with social media, I'm now in a position to get around the traditional media. Through my social media, my blogs, my Twitter sites, I'm actually reaching more people on a daily basis than much of the news media in this city. So we are able to level the playing field and trying to get out what is actually happening in the department.